Take a moment to reflect on this question. Can you think of a policy that you have encountered that sounds good on paper, but seems to struggle when it comes to putting it to practice? What might be the reasons for this? Welcome to this session as we look at how policies are implemented. By the end of this session, you will be able to identify various strategies and frameworks used to translate policy goals into action, apply methods for monitoring and evaluating policy implementation and its real-world impact. Effective policy implementation typically follows a 5-stage process. 1. Planning, detailed preparation and coordination. 2. Resource mobilization, securing important inputs. 3. Execution, actual delivery of policy activities. 4. Monitoring and evaluation, tracking progress and impact. 5. Reporting and accountability, communicating results and learning. Let's look at turning policy into action. The process of turning policy into action is rarely straightforward. It's a dynamic process that involves multiple sectors, diverse resources, and often complex coordination challenges. The key to success lies in choosing and executing the right implementation strategies. Let me share 5 critical implementation strategies that can make the difference between policy success and failure. One of the first strategic decisions in implementation is choosing between top-down and bottom-up approaches, or finding the right combination of both. In top-down implementation, policy directives flow from central authorities, such as national government or ministries, down to implementing agencies and frontline workers. Advantages: there's clear chain of command and accountability. It has consistent implementation across different locations. There is strong resource mobilization capacity. It's effective for policies requiring uniform standards. Challenges include: it may miss local context and needs. It can face resistance from local implementers. It may be slower to adapt to emerging challenges. The risk of poor communication down the chain. Bottom-up implementation emphasizes the role of local actors, implementers, and target beneficiaries in shaping how a policy is put into practice. Advantages here are: better adaptation to local contexts, higher ownership among implementers, more responsive to beneficiary needs, often more innovative and creative solutions. Challenges include: may lack consistency across different areas, can be difficult to coordinate and scale, may face resource constraints, risk of losing sight of overall policy objectives. Phased implementation. Instead of trying to implement everything at once, phased implementation allows for learning and adjustment. Pilot projects. A pilot project is a small-scale trial implementation of a policy in a limited geographical area or with a small target group. Benefits of pilot projects are: allows testing of assumptions and approaches, identifies implementation challenges early, builds evidence for what works and what doesn't, reduces risk and resource commitments, creates learning opportunities. For instance, before Rwanda rolled out its community-based health insurance nationally, it piloted the approach in select districts, learning about community acceptance, administrative challenges, and financial sustainability. Scaling up means expanding a successful pilot project to a larger scale, either geographically or in terms of the target population. Keys to successful scaling are: maintain core elements that made the pilot successful, adapts to different contexts while preserving essential features, ensure adequate resources for larger scale, build implementation capacity across new areas, maintain quality while expanding coverage. Example, after successful pilots, Rwanda's CBHI was scaled up nationally, with lessons from pilots informing the national rollout strategy. Capacity building. It ensures that the individuals, organizations, and systems responsible for implementing the policy have the necessary skills, knowledge, tools, and resources. Key elements of capacity building are training, technical assistance, infrastructure development, adequate funding. Example, training local government officials and community health workers on new public health guidelines. This might include technical training on new health protocols, management training on program administration, communication training for community engagement, ongoing mentoring and support systems. Without adequate capacity building, even well-designed policies can fail because implementers lack the tools and the knowledge needed for success. Effective implementation requires actively informing, consulting, and collaborating with all relative parties throughout the implementation process. Key stakeholder groups are target beneficiaries who will be affected by the policy, implementing agencies responsible for delivery, civil society organizations providing support or oversight, private sector partners contributing resources or services, political leadership providing support and resources. Communication strategies include public awareness campaigns explaining policy benefits and requirements, regular consultation meetings with key stakeholders, feedback mechanisms allowing two-way communication, transparent reporting on progress and challenges. Example, public awareness campaigns explaining new environmental regulations to citizens and businessmen. This might include media campaigns explaining why the regulations matter, workshop sessions with business owners on compliance requirements, community meetings to address concerns and questions, online platforms for ongoing communication and feedback. Remember, communication isn't just about telling people what to do. It's about building understanding, ownership, and support for the policy. Learning by doing. This is a flexible approach to implementation that recognizes that initial plans may need to change. It involves continuously monitoring outcomes, learning from experience, and making adjustments to the policy or its implementation strategy as needed. Key principles of learning by doing: flexibility, continuous monitoring, rapid feedback loops, documentation, experimentation. Example, a food security program that adjusts its crop distribution strategy based on changing weather patterns and local market prices. This might involve monthly monitoring of crop performance and market prices, regular consultation with farmers about emerging challenges, flexibility to change crop varieties or distribution timing, documentation of what works in different conditions, sharing lessons with other similar programs. This approach recognizes that implementation is not just about following a plan. It's about adapting to realities while maintaining focus on core objectives. Let's explore monitoring and evaluation, two related but distinct processes that are essential for successful policy implementation. Monitoring aims to provide real-time information to managers and stakeholders, identify problems early, ensure activities are on track, and verify that resources are being used as intended. Key questions monitoring asks: are we doing what we planned to do? Are we reaching the intended beneficiaries? Are resources being used efficiently? Are there any immediate problems or bottlenecks? Monitoring is like the dashboard in your car. It gives you ongoing information about how things are performing so you can make adjustments before problems become crises. There are 4 main categories of monitoring tools: progress reports, written updates on activities completed, targets achieved, and challenges encountered; dashboard indicators, visual displays of key performance metrics that can be updated regularly and easily understood by different stakeholders; site visits and observations, direct observation of implementation activities to verify reports and identify issues that might not appear in written reports; feedback and mechanisms, systems that allow beneficiaries and implementers to provide ongoing input on what's working and what isn't. Example: in a school feeding program, monitoring might track daily meal preparation, student attendance, food quality, and budget expenditure through a combination of school reports, surprise visits, and parent feedback systems. Evaluation is used to determine the relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, impact, and sustainability of the policy. It provides deeper insights than monitoring, focusing on why certain outcomes occurred and what long-term changes are happening. Key questions evaluation asks: did the policy achieve its intended objective? Was the policy implemented in the most cost-effective way? What significant changes or differences did the policy make in people's lives? Are the benefits likely to continue after the policy intervention ends? Was the policy relevant to the needs it aimed to address? What were the positive or negative effects that weren't anticipated? Evaluation uses 5 tools: survey and questionnaires, interview and focus group discussions, case studies, statistical analysis, baseline and endline studies. Policy implementation is where the rubber meets the road. It's often messy, challenging, but ultimately vital process that determines whether a well-intentioned policy remains a distant dream or transforms into tangible, positive change in people's lives. Most importantly, implementation is not about perfect execution of a predetermined plan. It's about intelligent adaptation while maintaining focus on the ultimate goal of positive change in people's lives. In our final session, we'll explore how to build a career in policymaking, the skills you need, the opportunities available, and the steps you can take to become an effective policy professional.